Hello and Happy New Year. I hope you had a restful and joyful holiday season. My name is Françoise Moudouthe and I am the CEO of the African Women's Development Fund. On behalf of the entire AWDF team, I wish you a wonderful new year. May 2021 bring you love and laughter and many opportunities to remember why your voice matters and to use it for change. We do look forward to working with you and to building the world that we African girls and women deserve. To kick off the year, I am delighted to introduce this podcast. It is the second part of a conversation I was privileged to have with the previous CEO of AWDF, the feminist powerhouse that is Theo Sowa. If you haven't listened to part 1, where I interviewed Theo about the lessons she's learned in the 9 years she spent at AWDF, please go to AWDF's YouTube channel and have a listen. You don't want to miss it. Now, part 2. In this podcast, I am answering Theo's questions about my first impressions after a few weeks in the job, my vision for AWDF, and my wish for the future years.
Thank you. Okay, so Françoise, your turn now.
Yes.
You've been with AWDF a few weeks now. And so you've had a chance to not just understand AWDF from an outside lens, but to actually begin to look at what is happening inside the organization. Bearing in mind what a crazy year 2020 has been, what from these last few weeks really excites you around the potential for 2021?
So for me, the first thing that I'm really excited about is the team. I think when you come from outside, what you see is mission, vision, those things that we have for our organizations, and they're not embodied. But I find that here, every single member of this team truly embodies the mission of AWDF, the values of AWDF. And I am really excited about that because this is nothing to really fix. It's about just building on that love, that passion, and that drive, and just making sure everybody here has what they need to just keep being excellent, and bringing a bit of like strategic vision and all of that. So I find it so amazing and inspiring just to be around the team all the time, even when it's on Zoom. I'm also really excited about the potential that this organization has to really embody what we mean when we say doing feminist work, to work for African girls and women in a way that is about nourishing, nurturing, not just resourcing the movements. And that is something that I love about AWDF and that I'm really excited about continuing.
That's great. And actually, speaking of the continent and our movements, 2020 has been a very different kind of year. What would be your reflection on 2020 in terms of our African feminist movements, or even more generally in terms of our continent?
I think 2020 has really shown the world, and sometimes shown ourselves, that we've been right all along when we were criticizing the system and saying it's not about individual acts of discrimination. It's really about the system that is broken. And I think 2020 has been the world telling us, yes, I'm broken here, and us through the grief. And there's been a lot of grief for us as individuals, for our families, for our communities, our organizations. But there's something about 2020 that makes me feel like we have been on the right path. And so we must be in the rebuilding of the world. We must be front and center, not us as individuals, but really our values, our feminist ideas, our feminist dreams that have been for so long, we've been told those are utopias. But it's actually what the world needs. And I'm excited about that. And I'm excited by the fact that, honestly, African feminists, especially the younger ones, they just won't take no for an answer. And I think this year, this is what we've been saying. We're like, no, no, no. We won't satisfy ourselves with the crumbs anymore. And I'm excited about that in the movement because we will need that much audacity because we know there's going to be so much backlash. So we need that. And lastly, I find that this year has shown how much solidarity, how much care runs through our movements. And it's been really inspiring and heartwarming for me personally, because sisterhood is critically important for me. I don't know how to live without it or work without it. And this year has been all of us showing each other that we don't have to negotiate for collective care, that we know it's front and center in our work.
The notion of collective care being front and center in the work and making it stay there is really amazing. So you mentioned a little bit about what's been happening on the continent, and I want to move it to your personal experience of some of this, because you've worked for some amazing organizations, you've helped set up some amazing organizations, you've been involved in different types of advocacy, you've set up IALA, which is a platform that truly has nourished so many of us African feminists and help us look at things in different ways and appreciate each other's work. It's a fantastic legacy and it's a fantastic amount of talent and knowledge to bring to AWDF. Of everything, what do you think is going to be some of the more important things that you will be bringing to AWDF?
First of all, thank you, because when Theo Sowa takes you have a great legacy. If not for this mic, I'd be dancing right now. I think it's very acute what you say about me starting up things. I'm a bit of a startup. I love starting up new things. And I think for me, the biggest challenge is to enter an institution like AWDF that is 20 years old and thinking about, well, I'm here because I am known to be somebody who likes change. And what does change look like? It's really a question for me. What does change look like in an organization that is so good, that we sometimes have so much respect that respect turns into deference? You don't want to touch things because they work so well. And for me, what I want to bring to all of this is my intimate knowledge of our movements beyond the expertise that we bring collectively, but really the experience of African feminists that I've been really excited to explore, and making sure that we nourish our work from that, not just from reports, but also from the experience of the women's rights defenders on the continent. I also want to bring in a very Pan-African view of the work. I think I'm thinking about language because I'm Francophone, but not only. I'm also thinking about looking at the blind spots that our movements have had, a bit in terms of the regions that sometimes are under-resourced or countries that we don't really put on the map. I think this organization has done so much, and we are in a position where we don't have to survive. And what does thriving look like? For me, it's as you were saying earlier, being brave. And for me, being brave is also exploring the blind spots.
It's great. And I think that when you speak about AWDF having respect turning into deference sometimes, I think that's why the board have made such a fantastic choice in having you come in as CEO, because actually at this stage, this is when you need to shake an organization up a little bit so that the respect doesn't become deference, but actually you can build and move forward. So the fact that the board have chosen someone who's visionary, who's young, who has different types of experience, who's a core part of the movement, it's a fantastic choice.
Thank you.
So bearing all that in mind and the change that you would like to see, the building that you would like to do, many years down the road, we won't even say how many years down the road, when you're thinking, oh, maybe it's time for me to try something new in my journey, what would you like to look back on and say, this is why it was worth my being at AWDF. This is what has changed?
It's hard to project, but I think there's something about AWDF that is revolutionary. I think this organization is a daily revolution. Every day, something groundbreaking happens here. And I think we are now in a world where everything is moving so fast and innovations are coming left and right. And how do we make sure we remain brave, daring, revolutionary? For me, that's what I want to make sure that we keep that spirit of revolution. And I think for me, the way I envision it right now, maybe ask me again in a year's time, but it's about keeping our feminist values very close, and so close that they are infused in not just what we do, who we do it with, but also how we do it. And that is in our systems, it's in the way we communicate, it's in the way we resource, it's in the way we embrace and we document. So I think for me, it's really about continuing the revolution, redefining the revolution, inspiring the revolution, and documenting the revolution.
I love that. I love the revolutionary bit. So that actually is your message to the outside world about what you hope to be doing with AWDF.
I think so. I think for me, it's not creating a revolution because our movements are revolutionary. Our feminist lives are revolutionary. It's about how we keep that alive in a world that tells us African women cannot be revolutionary. And so reminding ourselves of who we are and making sure it shows up in our work. And so we don't have to give a message to the world about our work. We just have to do it and people would not see it. So that's kind of my plan.
It's a great plan. And if you had to give one message to the team as you come in, what would that be?
I would say this team is so beautiful, individually, but collectively as well. I think as I joined, it was the end of the year, and there has been clearly a lot of fatigue from a really tough year. And so my first message should be, I hope we can all rest during the holiday. And as we come back at the beginning of the year, we get out of survival mode. I think 2020 has been a lot about survival for many of us. And as we think about our next strategic plan, as we think about the change we want to see, that we are not so bogged down in the survival mode that we forget to dream big. I think we are like people who dream big. We are feminists, so that's what we do. So let's not forget that. Because we don't know what 2021 brings, to be honest. And I don't want us collectively to be so stuck surviving that we forget to build and to dream. Thank you. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed this conversation. I certainly did. Don't forget to share it, comment, send feedback. We'd love to hear from you. Many thanks to the incomparable Theo Sowa for a contribution to AWDF's journey. Theo, we can't wait to see what you do next. But don't forget, even superheroes need a nap sometimes. To all of you, to all of us, I look forward to hearing from you, to engaging with you. So please stay in touch. Follow us on Twitter at AWDF01, on Instagram at the AWDF, and on Facebook at African Women's Development Fund. Let's stay together. Let's be in touch.